I'm sitting in my Honda Accord on a Tuesday afternoon, watching my husband of 28 years stare at an empty driveway like he's forgotten how to breathe. Craig Reed stands frozen on the sidewalk, his Tommy Bahama shirt, the one I bought him 3 Christmases ago, wrinkled from travel. Next to him, Vanessa Torres wobbles on designer heels, her blonde highlights catching the September sun. Behind them, our son Colin's BMW idles at the curb, engine running like he's ready to bolt. They're all staring at the house, or rather, where the house used to be. The $850,000 colonial with the wraparound porch isn't gone exactly. It's just under new ownership. There's a construction crew installing new windows, a dumpster full of old fixtures, and a sign that makes Craig's face drain of color. Future site of Riverside Luxury Condos, Reed Development Group. I roll down my window just enough to hear Craig's voice crack. What the hell is this? I allow myself a small smile. After 3 years of preparation, 6 months of paperwork, and 28 years of being invisible, this moment tastes like freedom. Let me tell you how I got here. My name is Carla Reed. I'm 52 years old, 5'6" with gray streaks in my dark hair that I stopped covering up 8 months ago. I was an architect once, a good one. The kind who could look at a blueprint and see not just a building, but a life someone would live inside it. 28 years ago, I met Craig Reed on a construction site in suburban Connecticut. I was 24, fresh out of graduate school with my architecture degree and a chip on my shoulder about proving myself in a male-dominated field. Craig was 27, a structural engineer with calloused hands and a smile that made me forget about proving anything. We were both working on the Henderson Medical Center project, my first major commission, his third. I'd designed a soaring atrium that the senior partner said was too ambitious. Craig looked at my drawings for 10 minutes, then turned to the partners and said, "It'll work. I can make it work." He did. The atrium won awards. We started dating 3 weeks later. For 20 years, we were happy. Or I thought we were. We got married in a small ceremony at his parents' house. Had Colin when I was 26, Elena 2 years later. Bought our first house with money my parents lent us, money I paid back over 5 years while Craig focused on climbing the engineering ladder. When my father died in 2008, he left me his entire estate, $1.2 million. My mother had passed 3 years earlier, and Dad had been meticulous about his investments. He'd grown up poor, worked as a machinist for 40 years, and saved every penny he could. "Build something that matters," he told me in the hospital, 2 weeks before he died. "Something that's yours." So I did. In March 1998, I established Reed Construction LLC. Initial capital, $500,000 from my inheritance. On the paperwork, I listed myself as sole proprietor and Craig as employee number 001, chief engineer, salary $75,000 per year. Craig was thrilled. "This is incredible, Carla. Our own company." I didn't correct him. Not then, not over the years that followed. He handled operations, client relationships, project management, site supervision. I handled everything else: paperwork, taxes, legal compliance, financial planning, business development. It worked. We grew from a 2-person operation to a firm with 15 full-time employees. Craig was the face of Reed Construction. He took clients to lunch, played golf with developers, gave speeches at industry conferences. People assumed he owned the company because he acted like he did. And I let them assume it because I was busy actually running the business. I know what you're thinking. Why didn't I correct him? Why didn't I demand recognition? Because I learned something early on. Visibility makes you a target. The best architects aren't the ones whose names are on buildings. They're the ones whose work speaks so loudly that names become irrelevant. I wanted to build. I wanted to create. I didn't want to spend my time defending my right to do so. So I became invisible. I worked from home after Elena was born, which everyone interpreted as me stepping back from my career. In reality, I was expanding it. While Craig networked at construction sites, I was buying properties. While he attended industry dinners, I was meeting with commercial real estate developers. While he complained about quarterly taxes, I was building a portfolio worth millions. The invisibility suited me. Until it didn't. 8 years ago, Craig started changing. Small things at first. He stopped asking about my day. When I'd mention a property acquisition or a consulting contract, his eyes would glaze over. "That's nice, honey," he'd say, then pivot to talking about his own projects. He bought himself a new truck, $65,000 fully loaded, without discussing it with me first. When I questioned the expense, he said, "I work hard, Carla. I deserve nice things." I wanted to remind him that his paycheck came from my company, funded by my inheritance. But I didn't. I told myself it wasn't worth the fight. 3 years ago, I found a receipt in his gym bag. Dinner at Marcello's, the expensive Italian place downtown, 3 for 2 people. I wouldn't have thought much about it, except Craig had told me he was working late that night. I was home with Elena, who had the flu. I did what any woman with a background in financial due diligence would do. I started tracking our credit cards. Within 2 weeks, I had a pattern. Restaurants I'd never been to, charges for women's jewelry at stores I'd never shopped at, a hotel room in Hartford on a Tuesday afternoon when Craig said he was meeting with a client. His name was easy to find in his phone. V. Work. Vanessa Torres, 26 years old at the time, project manager on our Riverside development. Ambitious, competent, hungry for advancement, and completely convinced that Craig Reed owned Reed Construction. I could have confronted him. Should have, probably. Instead, I opened my laptop and started documenting everything. Screenshots of texts, credit card statements, hotel receipts, location data from the phone plan I paid for. I called Rebecca Walsh, the best divorce attorney in the state. She's 64, sharp as broken glass, and has a reputation for destroying unfaithful husbands in court. "How long has this been going on?" Rebecca asked during our first meeting. 3 years that I can prove, possibly longer." "And you want to file for divorce?" "Not yet," I said. "First, I want to understand exactly what I own and what he thinks he owns. I have a feeling there's a significant gap." Rebecca smiled. "I like you already." Over the next 3 years, I prepared. Not for revenge. Revenge is emotional, messy, short-sighted. I prepared for liberation. I hired Sarah Chen, a forensic accountant, to audit 28 years of financial records. Every property purchase, every business expense, every asset that Craig assumed was ours. The results were illuminating. Reed Construction, 100% owned by me. Craig was an employee, albeit a well-compensated one. Current company value, $3.2 million. Real estate portfolio, $8.5 million across 12 properties, all purchased with business profits or investment returns from my original inheritance. Craig's name wasn't on a single deed. The house, purchased in 1999 for $320,000, now worth $850,000, bought entirely with my inheritance money. Craig's name was added to the deed in 2005 as a gift that could be legally contested given his subsequent infidelity. Joint accounts, $450,000 in combined savings and investments. Retirement accounts, my 401k had $890,000. Craig's had $340,000. And then there were Craig's secrets. Sarah found them buried in credit card applications I'd never seen. Over the past 3 years, Craig had opened 7 credit cards in his own name, using our home address and claiming income from Reed Construction to get approved. Total debt, $89,000. The charges told a story I already knew, but seeing it itemized made my stomach turn. Jewelry for Vanessa, $23,000. Weekend trips to Boston, New York, Newport, $18,000. Down payment on Vanessa's car, $15,000. 6 months of rent for a nicer apartment before she got her promotion, $24,000. Miscellaneous gifts, dinners, flowers, $9,000. "This is embezzlement," Sarah said, sliding the report across her desk. "He used company credit and his association with your business to fund a personal affair. That's fraud." "Can we prove it?" Every transaction is documented. We have emails where he told vendors to bill Reed Construction for personal expenses. We have his signature on company credit card applications. Carla, we can bury him. I looked at the numbers for a long time. 28 years of marriage reduced to spreadsheets and receipts. A man I'd loved, built a life with, raised children with, revealed as someone who'd stolen from me to impress his girlfriend. I felt something shift inside me. Not anger, clarity. Let's wait, I told Sarah. I'll know when the time is right. 6 months ago, Craig came home from work and didn't bother sitting down for the conversation. He stood in the doorway of our bedroom, watching me fold laundry, and said, "Carla, I think we should separate." I kept folding. A blue towel, one of Elena's old college sweatshirts, Craig's white undershirts that I'd been washing for 28 years. Why? We've grown apart. You know we have. You're focused on, I don't know, whatever you do all day. I need someone who understands my world. Your world, I repeated. The business world, the pressure, the networking, the... He stopped, searching for words. I need a partner who gets it. I set down the laundry and looked at him, really looked at him. The gray in his temples, the softness around his middle, the expensive watch I'd given him for his 50th birthday. You want a divorce? I think it's best, for both of us. He had the grace to look uncomfortable. I'll make sure you're taken care of. The house is worth a lot. We can split assets fairly. You'll be fine, Carla. You always land on your feet. You'll be fine. Like I was a cat, not a wife. Like 28 years could be divided neatly down the middle and packaged into moving boxes. I need time to think, I said. Of course. Take your time. He was already backing toward the door, relief flooding his face. I'm going to stay at a hotel for a while. Give us both some space. He moved in with Vanessa that weekend. Colin called 3 days later. My son, 28 years old, working in fintech, still figuring out how to be an adult. Mom, Dad told me about the separation. Did he? He said it was mutual, that you both agreed it was time. I stared out my kitchen window at the garden I'd planted 15 years ago. The roses were blooming. I'd have to prune them soon. Colin, did your father mention why we're separating? A pause. He said you'd drifted apart, that it happens sometimes. He's having an affair, has been for 3 years. Silence on the other end. With Vanessa Torres. She works for my company. Mom, Colin cleared his throat. Are you sure? I mean, Dad wouldn't... Oh, I have 3 years of documentation. Credit card statements, hotel receipts, text messages. I've had it all along. I just chose not to act on it immediately. Another long pause. When Colin spoke again, his voice was different, uncertain. Why are you telling me this? Because your father is about to ask you to take sides, and I want you to make an informed decision. I don't want to take sides. You're both my parents. That's fair, I said. But Colin, when you make your decision, remember this. I built the company your father claims to own. I paid for the house he's offering to split with me. I've been subsidizing his lifestyle for 28 years, and he's leaving me for someone young enough to be his daughter, using money he embezzled from my business. Embezzled? Mom, that's... Check the records, Colin. The information is all there. You're smart enough to know what to look for. I hung up before he could respond. Elena was next. My daughter called from Los Angeles, where she'd been building her content creation business. 300,000 followers. Brand deals with makeup companies. A life carefully curated for public consumption. Mom, what's going on? Colin said you're accusing Dad of awful things. Did he tell you what things? Something about an affair? An embezzlement? Mom, that doesn't sound like Dad. I love my daughter, but she sees the world through a camera lens, everything filtered, everyone performing their best selves. Elena, your father has been having an affair with Vanessa Torres for 3 years. He spent $89,000 of fraudulently obtained credit on her. And he's leaving me because he thinks I'm old and boring. Mom, you can't know that. He told me, Elena. Not in those exact words, but close enough. He said he needs someone who understands his world, someone who makes him feel relevant again. I could hear her breathing over the phone. When she finally spoke, her voice was small. "Are you going to be okay?" "I'm going to be better than okay. I'm going to be free." 4 months ago, Craig made it official. He showed up at the house, still legally my house, though he didn't know that yet, with Vanessa on his arm. "Carla, I wanted to tell you in person. Vanessa and I are getting married. We're having a ceremony in Napa Valley next month. It's going to be small, intimate, just close family." Vanessa had the decency to look uncomfortable. Up close, she was prettier than her photos. Clear skin, bright eyes, the kind of youth that no amount of money can buy back. "Congratulations," I said. Craig blinked. "That's it? Just congratulations? What would you like me to say, Craig?" "I don't know. I thought you'd be upset. Would that make you feel better? If I were upset?" He didn't answer. Vanessa was studying me with a strange expression, not hostile, but curious, like she was trying to figure out what kind of woman could respond to this news without falling apart. "I hope you'll be happy," I said. And I meant it, because happy people don't come back and demand second chances. "We've invited Colin and Elena," Craig added, "and Miles, of course. It would mean a lot if they came. That's their decision." "Right. Well," Craig shifted his weight. "I'm going to need you to move out before we get back. I know it's difficult, but the house is legally mine," I finished. "But don't worry, Craig. I'll make arrangements." They left for Napa on a Thursday morning. Colin flew out from Connecticut. Elena and Miles drove up from Los Angeles. My children were attending their father's second wedding while his first marriage still legally existed. I spent that Thursday morning on the phone with Rebecca Walsh. "Are you ready?" she asked. "I've been ready for 3 years." "Then let's do this." The house sold in 48 hours. I'd already lined up a buyer, a development company that wanted the property for a luxury condo project. They paid market value plus a premium for quick closing. The proceeds, $850,000, went directly into my business account. I hired movers to pack Craig's belongings. Everything went into a climate-controlled storage unit across town. I paid for 3 months in advance and sent the key to his hotel address. The deed transfer was filed with the county clerk on Friday morning. By Friday afternoon, Reed Development Group owned the property and had construction crews on site. I spent Friday night in my new condo, a 3-bedroom unit downtown with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of the river. I'd bought it 6 months earlier, paying cash. It was already furnished, already mine. On Saturday, I drove to the house, parked across the street, and waited. They arrived just after 2 in the afternoon. Craig's truck pulled into the driveway first. He climbed out, stretching like a man without a care in the world. Vanessa followed, laughing at something he'd said. Then Colin's BMW, Elena's rental car. They stood in a cluster at the end of the driveway, staring at the construction crew, at the workers installing new windows, at the dumpster full of old fixtures, at the sign with my company's name on it. I watched Craig's face cycle through emotions: confusion, disbelief, recognition, panic. He pulled out his phone, started dialing frantically. I let it ring twice before answering. "Hello, Craig." "Carla, what the hell have you done?" "I sold my house." "Your house?" "Our house. That's marital property." "Actually, Craig, it isn't. The house was purchased entirely with my inheritance money. Your name was added to the deed as a gift. Gifts can be revoked under certain circumstances, adultery, for instance." Silence, then. "Where are my things?" "Storage Unit 247 across town. The address is in your email. Rent's paid through November." "You can't do this." "I already did." I hung up. Through my windshield, I watched them argue. Colin was pacing. Elena had her phone out, probably recording for her followers. Vanessa looked like she was about to cry. And Craig stood in the center of it all, finally understanding that the life he thought he owned had never been his at all. I started my car. Time for Phase 2. The Reed construction office sits on the corner of Maple and 4th, a renovated warehouse with exposed brick and floor-to-ceiling windows. I designed it myself 12 years ago. Every beam, every angle, every sightline calculated for maximum efficiency and light. Craig's truck is already in the parking lot when I arrive Monday morning. So is Colin's BMW. They've had the weekend to stew, to strategize, to convince themselves there's a way out of this. There isn't. Tom Harrison meets me at the door. He's 53, built like a man who spent 30 years carrying lumber, with a weathered face that breaks into a rare smile when he sees me. Mrs. Reed, they're waiting in the conference room. All of them? Mr. Reed, Colin, and Vanessa. Elena's on video call. He lowers his voice. Craig's been making calls all morning, trying to understand the property situation. He's agitated. I imagine he is. Tom holds the door. For what it's worth, ma'am, it's about time. I squeeze his arm as I pass. Tom has worked for Reed Construction for 15 years. He's always known who really signs his paychecks. The conference room smells like stale coffee and anxiety. Craig stands at the head of the table, my table, in my building, like he's chairing a board meeting. Colin sits to his right, laptop open, playing the dutiful son. Vanessa perches on the edge of her chair, perfectly dressed but with shadows under her eyes that makeup can't quite hide. Elena's face fills the monitor at the far end. Even through the screen, I can see she's been crying. Carla, Craig's voice is tight. We need to talk about this situation. What situation is that? I set my bag on the table and take the chair opposite him. Not at the head. I don't need the symbolism. I own the room either way. The house? The property? What you did was legal, I interrupt. Completely legal. I sold property that belonged to me. Used the proceeds to fund a development project through my company. Your company? Craig's laugh is bitter. Carla, Reed Construction is our company. We built it together. This is the moment I've been waiting 3 years for. Tom, I call toward the door. Could you join us, please? Tom enters, carrying a thick binder. He sets it in front of me, then takes a position by the door. Witness and ally. I open the binder. 28 years of documents, organized chronologically by Sarah Chen's meticulous hand. Reed Construction, LLC, established March 15, 1998. I slide the first document across the table. Articles of Incorporation. Initial capital investment, $500,000 from Carla Winters Reed. Sole proprietor, Carla Winters Reed. Craig stares at the document like it's written in a foreign language. That's the formation paperwork. This, I slide another sheet, is your employment contract. Employee number 1, Craig Matthew Reed. Position, Chief Engineer. Starting salary, $75,000 per year. That's not... Craig's voice cracks. That's just paperwork, Carla. We both know I built this company. Did you? I keep my tone neutral, factual. Tom, how long have you worked here? 15 years, Mrs. Reed. And in those 15 years, who approved your hiring? Who signs your paychecks? Who approves major project decisions? You do, ma'am. You always have. I look at Craig. You handle operations brilliantly. Client relations, project management, site supervision. You're excellent at those things. But Craig, you've never signed a contract. Never filed a tax return. Never approved a major expenditure. You've never owned this company. You've worked for it. Colin is scrolling through something on his laptop, his face getting paler by the second. Dad, this is all public record. The LLC registration, the tax filings. Mom's name is on everything. Because she handled the paperwork. Craig slams his hand on the table. I was busy actually building things. I was bringing in clients, managing projects, for which you were paid, I say. Very well paid. Your current salary is $180,000 a year, plus performance bonuses, plus a company vehicle, plus full benefits. You've been compensated for every hour you've worked. Vanessa speaks for the first time, her voice small. Craig told me he owned Reed Construction. I turn to her. Despite everything, I feel a flicker of sympathy. She's 29 years old, ambitious, and in love with a fantasy. He told you that because he believed it. Isn't that right, Craig? You've been telling people you're a business owner for so long that you convinced yourself it was true. This is insane. Craig is standing now, pacing. 28 years of marriage, Carla. 28 years of partnership. You can't just... Partnership? The word comes out sharper than I intended. Craig, when's the last time you asked about my work? My projects? My consulting contracts? Silence. 8 years ago, I told you I was investing in a commercial property downtown. Do you remember what you said? He doesn't answer. You said, "That's nice, honey," and went back to watching golf. That property is now worth $1.2 million. I've bought 11 more since then. You've never asked about a single one. Elena's voice comes through the speaker, thick with tears. Mom, why didn't you say something? Why didn't you tell us? I look at my daughter's pixelated face on the screen. Because I shouldn't have had to, sweetheart. A real partner asks. A real partner pays attention. A real partner doesn't assume the person handling all the invisible work is doing nothing. Colin closes his laptop with a decisive snap. Okay, so Mom owns the company. Fine, but there has to be some compensation for Dad's contributions. Sweat equity or something. There's no sweat equity claim, I say. Your father was compensated above market rate for his entire tenure. He's built a 401k worth $340,000. He's received bonuses totaling nearly $500,000 over 28 years. He hasn't contributed sweat equity. He's been paid handsomely for his labor. So what are you saying? Craig's voice is dangerous now. I get nothing? After 28 years, I walk away with nothing? You walk away with exactly what you earned. Your retirement account, your personal belongings, and... I pause, pulling out another folder. We need to discuss this. The folder contains 3 years of credit card statements. I slide it across to Craig. What's this? But his face tells me he already knows. Over the past 3 years, you've accumulated $89,000 in personal debt using credit cards I didn't know about. Cards you opened using our home address and claiming income from Reed Construction. Vanessa leans forward. What kind of debt? I recite from memory. $23,000 for jewelry. $18,000 for trips to Boston, New York, Newport. $15,000 down payment on a Jeep Wrangler. I glance at Vanessa. I'm guessing that's yours? The color drains from her face. $24,000 in rent assistance. $9,000 in miscellaneous expenses. Flowers, dinners, gifts. Craig? Vanessa's voice shakes. You told me you bought my car with your bonus. You said the apartment upgrade was something you could easily afford. I can afford it, Craig insists. Once the divorce is settled, once I get my half. Half of what? I ask. Craig, there is no hours to split. There's mine and there's yours, and yours includes $89,000 in debt, plus your retirement account. Colin is typing furiously on his laptop again. Mom, that debt. If Dad used company information to get those credit cards, that's fraud, I finish. Potentially embezzlement, depending on how the charges were categorized. The room goes silent except for the hum of the HVAC system. You wouldn't, Craig says. You wouldn't actually press charges. I don't want to, but I will if you force me to. Vanessa stands abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. I need to understand something. She's looking at me, not Craig. Is any of this real? Anything he told me? I consider lying, consider softening it, but Vanessa deserves the truth. Craig genuinely cares about you. I believe that. But the life he promised you, the ownership stake in the company, the financial security, the partnership, that was a fantasy. He believed it himself, which made it easier to convince you. I quit my job. Vanessa's voice breaks. I gave up my apartment. Craig said we were going to build something together. After you two divorced, he was going to make me VP of development. I can't speak to his intentions, but I can tell you the reality. Craig is an employee. He has no equity to offer you, no company to share, no assets beyond his personal retirement account. Vanessa sits back down slowly. She looks at Craig like she's seeing him for the first time. You lied to me. I didn't lie, Craig protests. I believed. You told me you owned this company. You told me you were wealthy. You told me we'd have a beautiful life together. Her voice rises. I left everything for you. My job, my apartment, my security. For what? For a man who's broke and still married? Still married? Colin looks between us. Dad, you said you got married in Napa. You had a ceremony. We did, Craig says defensively. A commitment ceremony. The legal paperwork was impossible, I say. You can't legally marry someone while you're still married to someone else. What you had in Napa was a party, Craig. Nothing more. Elena's face on the screen is frozen in shock. Oh my God. Dad, you didn't actually marry Vanessa? The divorce wasn't final yet, but the divorce papers were never even filed, I interrupt. I never received anything to sign. Craig assumed I'd cooperate when he got around to it. He was planning to serve me papers after the ceremony, present me with a fait accompli. I pull out my phone and open my email. I filed for divorce this morning. Since you've been committing adultery for 3 years, and since you've made no effort to reconcile or negotiate fairly, this qualifies for an uncontested divorce on grounds of infidelity. My attorney expects it to be finalized within 60 days. 60 days? Craig's voice is hoarse. And then what? You take everything? I keep what's legally mine. The house proceeds are already reinvested in the Riverside project. The company remains under my ownership. The real estate portfolio was never marital property. It was built with profits from my separate business. What about the joint accounts? Colin asks. The savings, the investments? The $450,000 in joint accounts will be split evenly. That's fair. Craig also keeps his retirement account and personal vehicle. Craig laughs, a harsh sound. So I get $225,000 in my truck. After 28 years of marriage, after building a company from the ground up. You didn't build the company, Tom Harrison says from his position by the door. Everyone turns to look at him. Mr. Reed, I've been here 15 years. I've watched Mrs. Reed handle every major decision, every financial crisis, every strategic pivot. You're good at your job, you're a talented engineer, but you've never been the builder here. She has. I stand gathering my documents. I need to get something off my chest, something I should have said years ago. The room is utterly silent. Do you know what hurt most, Craig? It wasn't the affair. It wasn't even Vanessa. It was being invisible. For 28 years, I made sure you looked successful. I paid our mortgage so you could tell clients you were established. I managed every financial crisis so you never had to worry. I handled the taxes, the legal issues, the business strategy, all of it. And you never once asked what I was working on, what my dreams were, what I needed. You came home and talked about your day, your projects, your problems. You bought yourself golf clubs and watches and sports cars with bonuses I approved and paid. When I mentioned my work, you said, "That's nice, honey," and changed the subject. I wasn't your wife, Craig. I was your infrastructure. Invisible. Expected to always function. Blamed when anything went wrong. When I found out about Vanessa, I wasn't heartbroken that you loved someone else. I was relieved. Because it meant I could finally stop propping you up. My voice doesn't shake. I've practiced this speech in my head for 3 years, but now that I'm saying it out loud, it feels like breathing out poison. I've spent 3 years documenting everything, planning for this moment. Not because I wanted revenge, but because I wanted freedom. Freedom from being taken for granted. Freedom from subsidizing someone else's ego. Freedom to finally be visible. Craig's face is gray. Carla, you never meant to hurt me? You never meant to take me for granted? Craig, intent doesn't matter. Impact does. And the impact of your choices has been crystal clear. You saw me as a resource, not a person. A bank account with a pulse. I turned to Vanessa. You asked if any of it was real. Here's what's real. Craig is charming and talented and deeply insecure. He needs constant validation. He needs to feel successful, admired, relevant. When I stopped providing that validation, when I started focusing on my own work, he found someone who would. That's not your fault. It's just who he is. Vanessa's eyes are wet. What do I do now? Build your own life. You're 29 years old with a good resume and real skills. You don't need a man to validate that. I look at Colin. Your father is going to ask you for money. To help with his debt, his living expenses, his pride. That's your choice to make. But remember, I've been covering his mistakes for years. There's a difference between helping someone and enabling them. Finally, I look at Elena's face on the screen. Sweetheart, I know this is hard. I know you love your father. Love him. But don't mistake his comfort for your responsibility. He's a grown man who made grown choices. I pick up my bag. Craig, you can keep your position here if you want it. Tom will be supervising all your projects going forward. Your salary remains $180,000, but you'll need to start contributing to your own health insurance. Cobra coverage is available, or you can resign and find work elsewhere. Your choice. My choice? Craig's voice is bitter. You've taken everything and you're giving me a choice? I'm giving you what you gave me. The truth. You've been living in a fantasy, Craig. Time to wake up. I walk to the door, then pause. The storage unit key is in your email. You have until the end of the month to empty it. After that, I donate the contents. Outside the conference room, Tom follows me to my office. That took guts, Mrs. Reed. It took preparation, Tom. Guts would have been doing it 3 years ago. What's next? I sink into my desk chair and look out the window at the construction crew working on the Riverside project. My project. My vision becoming reality. Next, we build. The Riverside condos are just the beginning. I have plans for 3 more properties. We're expanding. And Mr. Reed? He'll figure it out, or he won't. Either way, that's no longer my problem. Tom nods and turns to leave, then stops. Ma'am, it's good to see you standing in the light for once. After he leaves, I sit in the silence of my office. Through the window, I can see Craig's truck still in the parking lot. Colin's BMW beside it. My phone buzzes. A text from Elena. Mom, can we talk privately? Another from Rebecca Walsh. Just got Craig's lawyer on the phone. He wants to negotiate. How hard do we push? And one from Nora, Colin's wife. Mrs. Reed, I just heard everything from Colin. I need you to know I'm on your side. Always was. I set the phone down and close my eyes. 28 years of being invisible. 3 years of planning. 1 morning of truth. The hard part, I realize, isn't over. It's just beginning. Because Craig won't accept this quietly. Colin will be torn between loyalty and logic. Elena will struggle with the gap between the parents she thought she had and the reality she's just discovered. But for the first time in 28 years, I'm not carrying them. I'm just carrying myself. And I'm lighter than I've ever been. 3 weeks after the confrontation, I'm standing in the kitchen of my new condo, making coffee at 6 in the morning, when my phone rings. The caller ID shows a number I don't recognize, but the area code is local. Mrs. Reed, this is Dr. Patricia Morgan from General Hospital. I have Craig Reed here. He's listed you as his emergency contact. My hand freezes on the coffee pot. What happened? He collapsed at a construction site yesterday afternoon. The crew called 911. We've run tests. It appears to be a stress-induced cardiac event. Not a full heart attack, but warning signs. High blood pressure, irregular heartbeat. We'd like to keep him for observation, but there's an issue with insurance coverage. Of course there is. Craig never signed up for Cobra coverage after I removed him from the company insurance plan. Is he in danger? Not immediate danger, but he needs monitoring and medication. The bigger concern is his stress levels. Mrs. Reed, I understand there's been recent family difficulty. Your husband needs to make significant lifestyle changes, or we'll be having this conversation again under worse circumstances. He's not my husband anymore. Not really. A pause. The paperwork says spouse. The paperwork is outdated, but I'll come down. Give me 30 minutes. General Hospital smells like antiseptic and desperation. I find Craig in a semi-private room, hooked up to monitors that beep softly. He looks smaller in the hospital bed, older, vulnerable. His Tommy Bahama shirt has been replaced by a thin gown, his usual bravado stripped away with his street clothes. He opens his eyes when I enter. "Carla?" "The doctor called me." "I didn't ask her to." "I know." I pull a chair next to the bed but don't sit yet. "What happened?" "I was at the Riverside site. Tom was going over the revisions to my work, again. Explaining why my approach wouldn't work, again. And I just felt this pressure in my chest. Couldn't breathe. Next thing I know, I'm here." He looks away toward the window. "They asked about my insurance. I told them I had Cobra coverage, but apparently I never actually signed the paperwork. Never paid the premium." "Craig?" "I know. Another thing I assumed would just handle itself." His laugh is bitter. "The story of my life, right? Assuming someone else, you, would take care of the details." I sit down. "The doctor said this was stress-induced." "Stress, yeah." He closes his eyes. "I'm living in an extended-stay motel, eating fast food because I don't know how to cook, trying to figure out how to pay off $89,000 in debt on a salary that barely covers rent and food. Vanessa won't return my calls. Colin looks at me like I'm a stranger, and every day at work, I'm reminded that I never owned anything I thought I did." "So you're having a health crisis?" "I'm having an existential crisis." He opens his eyes and looks at me directly for the first time. "Carla, I'm sorry. Really, genuinely sorry. Not because I got caught, not because I lost everything, but because I finally understand what I did to you." I wait. Years of marriage taught me that Craig needs silence to find his words. "Vanessa called me last week. She wanted to meet for coffee, said she needed closure. I thought maybe she'd changed her mind, wanted to try again. But she didn't. She wanted to understand what had happened, how I could lie to her so completely." He shifts in the hospital bed, wincing. "I told her I didn't lie. I believed everything I said. I believed I owned the company, believed I was successful, believed I deserved a fresh start. And she said," he pauses, "she said, the scariest part is that you still think this is about what you deserve." A monitor beeps. A nurse walks past the door. "She was right," Craig continues. "I spent 28 years thinking about what I deserved, what I'd earned, what I was entitled to. I never once thought about what you deserved, what you'd built, what you'd sacrificed." "Craig, no, let me finish. Please." He takes a shaky breath. "You could have corrected me years ago. When people called me the owner of Reed Construction, you could have said, 'Actually, I own it.' When I bought myself expensive things, you could have reminded me the money came from your company. When I complained about our marriage being boring, you could have pointed out that I'd stopped asking you about your life years ago. But you didn't. And I thought it was because you didn't care. Because you were passive, complacent, fine with being in the background. I mistook your strategic silence for weakness." He looks at me with something I haven't seen in his eyes in years. Genuine humility. "I realize now, you were never weak. You were calculating, planning, building an escape route while I was too self-absorbed to notice. And the most humiliating part, I handed you every tool you needed. Every lie I told, every dollar I spent, every assumption I made, you documented it all and let me hang myself. I didn't want to hang you, Craig. I wanted to be free. I know that now." He reaches toward me, then stops, his hand falling back onto the blanket. "Carla, I can't undo what I did. I can't give you back those years. But I can tell you the truth now. You were always the architect of our life, our business, our success. I was just the guy standing in the blueprint, taking credit for the building." I leave the hospital an hour later with a strange feeling in my chest. Not quite forgiveness, not quite closure, but something adjacent to peace. My phone buzzes as I reach my car. A text from Vanessa Torres. "Mrs. Reed, could we meet? I have something to discuss with you. It's about the Riverside project." We arranged to meet at a coffee shop near the construction site. Vanessa looks different than she did 3 weeks ago. No designer heels, no carefully styled hair. She's wearing jeans and a Reed Construction polo shirt, her hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. "Thank you for meeting me," she says as I sit down. You said it was about Riverside. It is. But first I need to apologize. She wraps her hands around her coffee cup. I knew Craig was married. He told me the marriage was over, that you'd both moved on emotionally, that the divorce was just paperwork. I chose to believe him because it was easier than admitting I was the other woman. You were 26 when it started. He was your supervisor. The power dynamic wasn't equal. That's generous, but it doesn't absolve me. I made choices. She meets my eyes. When I found out the truth, that he'd lied about everything, that I'd thrown away my career for a fantasy, I was angry. At him, at myself, at you for being so calm about it all. But then Tom Harrison called me. Tom called you? He said you'd mentioned there might be a project manager position opening up, that Reed Construction was expanding and needed someone with commercial development experience. She pauses. Mrs. Reed, why would you offer me a job after everything I did? I consider the question. Because you're good at what you do. Because you were a victim of Craig's delusions, too, just in a different way. And because I know what it's like to doubt your own worth. I don't deserve your kindness. This isn't kindness, Vanessa. It's pragmatism. I need a talented project manager. You need a job. We can be professional without being friends. She nods slowly. I've been at the Riverside site every day for 2 weeks. Working with Tom, learning your vision for the project. Mrs. Reed, it's brilliant. The way you've designed the space flow, the sustainable materials, the community integration. This isn't just condos. It's a neighborhood. That's what architecture should be. Not just buildings, but spaces where lives happen. I want to be part of that. Not because I need a job, though I do, but because I want to build something real. Something that matters. Something that's actually mine. I study her. The position pays $95,000. You report directly to Tom. You'll be managing a team of 6. It's hard work, long hours, and no special treatment. I don't want special treatment. I want to earn it. Then you start Monday. That evening, Elena video calls from Los Angeles. She's not crying this time, but her face is serious. Mom, I need to talk to you about something. Without Dad, without Colin. Just us. Go ahead. I've been thinking about everything that happened. About how I helped Dad plan his wedding to Vanessa. How I posted about it on social media like it was some romantic second chance story. How I never once called you to ask if you were okay. Her voice cracks. I was so focused on my content, on telling a story my followers would engage with, that I forgot you were an actual person going through an actual crisis. I treated your divorce like it was a plot point in my feed. Elena, no, Mom, I need to say this. I've built this whole career on authenticity, showing my real life, being relatable. But I realize now I don't know what real life is. I've never paid my own insurance, never worried about money, never had to choose between rent and groceries. And I never questioned why. I just assumed money appeared because Dad was successful. Your father is successful. He's talented at what he does. But you're the one who made everything possible. You're the one who paid for everything. And I never even noticed. I can see Miles in the background of the video, sitting on their couch. He gives me a small wave. Elena, you're 26 years old. You're allowed to have been naive. I'm 26 years old. I should have known better. She wipes her eyes. Miles has been trying to tell me for years that I needed to understand money, how it works, where it comes from, how to manage it. But I thought it was boring. Now I realize it's not boring. It's freedom. The kind of freedom you had all along while Dad thought he was the one in control. What are you going to do? I'm changing my content focus. No more just beauty and lifestyle. I want to talk about financial literacy, about women and money, about the invisible labor that holds families together. She smiles through tears. I'm calling it the architecture of independence, if that's okay with you. Something warm spreads through my chest. I think that's perfect. 2 days later, Colin shows up at my condo unannounced. I'm working on plans for my next development project when the doorman calls up. Mrs. Reed, your son is here. Send him up. Colin looks terrible. Dark circles under his eyes, wrinkled shirt, the kind of exhaustion that comes from not sleeping. He's carrying a folder. Mom, I need to show you something. We sit at my dining table. He opens the folder. Spreadsheets, bank statements, business plans. My startup failed. Completely. The crypto market crashed, our investors pulled out, and I had to lay off my entire team. He slides the papers toward me. I owe $73,000. The bank wants their loan repaid. I can't make the payments. I know. They've been calling me. His head snaps up. They called you? I co-signed the original loan. You don't remember? You were so excited about the business plan, you didn't read the paperwork carefully. Jesus. He drops his head into his hands. Mom, I'm so sorry. For everything. For the loan, for supporting Dad, for not seeing what you were going through, for being a spoiled, entitled... Colin. He looks up. I'm not going to pay the loan. The color drains from his face. But I am going to help you figure out how to handle it. First, you need a job. A real job, not another startup. Something with a steady paycheck and benefits. I've been applying. I have an interview at Jensen Financial on Monday. It's an analyst position. Entry level. Good. Take it if they offer it. Second, you need to talk to the bank about a payment plan. They'd rather have $500 a month for the next 10 years than nothing at all. Third, you need to sell your BMW. My car? It's worth $40,000. That knocks a significant chunk off your debt. Buy a used Honda. Welcome to real life. He's quiet for a long moment. Why are you helping me if you're not going to pay the loan? Because there's a difference between helping and enabling. I enabled your father for 28 years. Look where it got him. I love you too much to make the same mistake. Colin looks at the papers spread across my table. Mom, how did you know? How did you know to prepare for all this? I didn't know. I hoped I was wrong. But I've learned that hope isn't a strategy. Documentation is. Planning is. Having your own resources is. I want to learn that. Will you teach me? I reach across the table and squeeze his hand. That's exactly what I was hoping you'd ask. My condo is full of people for the first time since I moved in. The dining table, expanded with leaves I had to dig out of storage. Seats 9. Colin and Nora arrive first. Nora is 4 months pregnant now, just starting to show. Colin has lost weight, looks tired but healthy. There's something different in his eyes. Focus, maybe. Purpose. Mom, he hugs me tight. Thank you for doing this. It's Thanksgiving. Family comes together. Even Dad? Especially your father. This is about moving forward, not staying stuck in anger. Elena and Miles arrive next, bringing wine and a homemade pie that Elena actually baked herself. My first one, she announces proudly. It might be terrible. Tom Harrison and his wife Jenny. Tom brings a bouquet of flowers. From the crew at Riverside, the first unit sold out in 3 days. Sarah Chen, my accountant. I brought printouts of the Q3 reports. Thought you'd want to see how well everything's going. Sarah, it's Thanksgiving. I know, but the numbers are really good. And then Craig arrives. He's lost weight too, but it looks good on him. Like he's been taking care of himself instead of just getting by. He's wearing a simple button-down shirt, carrying a bottle of wine that I know he couldn't really afford. Carla, he holds out the wine. Thank you for inviting me. The kids wanted you here. The kids or you? Both. The last guest surprises everyone. Vanessa Torres wearing a professional dress, her hair styled simply. She catches my eye as she enters, silently asking permission. I nod. She belongs here too. Dinner is chaotic and perfect. Colin tells stories about his new job at Jensen Financial. Self-deprecating stories about learning how to actually work for a living. Elena talks about her new content series, how her engagement dropped, but her connection with her audience deepened. I posted about Mom's story, she says, obviously without names, without specifics, but I talked about invisible labor, about women who build empires while their families assume they do nothing. It went viral. 2 million views. Good viral or bad viral, I ask. Complicated viral. Some people think the woman in the story, you, is a hero. Some think she's vindictive. But everyone's talking about it. About how we value women's work. About financial independence. Nora raises her water glass. I want to make a toast to Carla, who taught all of us, even those of us who married into this family, that self-reliance isn't selfish, it's necessary. Colin adds, to Mom, who gave me the greatest gift, letting me fail. The job at Jensen is good. I'm learning things I should have learned years ago, and Nora and I, he looks at his wife. We're doing this on our own. No bailouts, no safety nets. We're terrified, but we're doing it. To Carla, Vanessa says, surprising everyone. Who could have destroyed me but instead gave me a chance to rebuild? The Riverside project is the best work I've ever done. I'm saving for my first property investment. You inspired that. Tom Harrison stands. To the best boss I've ever had, and the best architect, who finally let herself be seen. Miles speaks next. I've only been in this family for 3 years, but I've watched all of you change over these past few months. Elena's more authentic, Colin's more grounded, Craig's more honest, and Carla, you've always been strong, but now you're free too. Everyone looks at Craig. He stands slowly. I owe everyone here an apology, but especially Carla and our kids. Colin, Elena, your mother is the strongest, smartest person I've ever known. I spent 28 years dimming her light so I could feel brighter. That was cowardice. Carla, I can't undo the past, but I can tell the truth now. Reed Construction was never mine. The house was never mine. Even the life I thought I'd built. You built it. I just lived in it. Thank you for not destroying me when you had every right to. Thank you for showing me that accountability isn't punishment. It's dignity. The room is silent. Elena is crying. Colin's jaw is tight with emotion. I stand, glass in hand. Craig, I didn't save you. I stopped doing the work of protecting you from yourself. There's a difference. Everyone at this table has grown this year. Colin learned he's capable without bailouts. Elena learned authenticity matters more than appearance. Vanessa learned her worth isn't tied to someone else's status. Craig, you learned that borrowed glory is hollow. And me? I learned that I don't have to be invisible to keep peace. I learned that claiming my space isn't selfish. I learned that I can be powerful and compassionate at the same time. So this Thanksgiving, I'm grateful, not for the pain, but for the clarity that came from it. For the family we're becoming instead of the family we pretended to be. We clink glasses. The sound rings like a bell, clear and true. The Riverside Condos project is featured in Architecture Digest. The photo shoot takes all day. Tom and I walking through the completed units, pointing out design elements, explaining the vision. The interviewer, a young woman named Rachel, asks the question I knew was coming. For years, people assumed your husband owned Reed Construction. How does it feel to finally get recognition? I think about it. I never wanted recognition. I wanted to build things that mattered. But I've learned there's a difference between being humble and being invisible. Humility is knowing your place in the world. Invisibility is letting others define that place for you. And now? Now I'm exactly where I belong. In the light, doing the work, owning what I've built. The article comes out in spring. Within days, I'm getting calls from other publications, speaking invitations, requests for mentorship from young female architects. Colin sends me a text. Saw the AD article. I'm framing it for the baby's room, so they'll know their grandmother is a badass. Elena posts about it. My mother spent 28 years building an empire while everyone assumed she did nothing. Now the world knows. She was never the woman behind the man. She was the foundation holding everything up. Craig sends a simple email. Congratulations. The article is beautiful. You deserve this. All of it. And Vanessa stops by the office with a folder. I found a property, a small mixed-use development downtown. I want to buy it, develop it, maybe partner with Reed Construction on the project. But I want to do it right, with contracts, with clear ownership, with my name on the deed. Show me the plans. We spend 2 hours going over the numbers, the vision, the logistics. When she leaves, Tom comes into my office. She's going to be good at this. She already is. What about Colin? Think he'll want back into the business someday? Maybe, but not until he's ready. Not until he's built something on his own first. Tom nods, then hesitates. Mrs. Reed, I've been meaning to ask, why didn't you ever put your name on the building? Reed Construction. It's your company, but it's Craig's name. I look out the window at the riverside condos, at the sign with my company's name, at the life I've built from invisible foundations. Reed was my name first, I say. I just let him borrow it for a while. But it was always mine. Tom smiles. It's good to see you standing in it. After he leaves, I sit alone in my office. The late afternoon sun streams through the windows, catching on the Architecture Digest magazine lying on my desk. On the cover, I'm standing in front of the Riverside project, arms crossed, smiling. The headline reads, "The Silent Architect, How Carla Reed Built an Empire While Everyone Else Took Credit." I run my fingers over the words. 30 years of architecture, 28 years of marriage, 3 years of planning, 6 months of truth, and finally, my name in the light where it belongs. I pick up my phone and text Elena. Dinner next week? Just us. I want to hear about your new series. Colin's tea. How's the baby planning going? Let me know if you need anything. Advice, not money. I'm learning the difference. And after a long moment, Craig. I'm proud of you. I should have said it more. His response comes quickly. I'm proud of you too, for finally believing it. I set the phone down and look out at the city I've helped build. Somewhere out there, there's another woman working invisibly, building something no one sees, holding up a world that doesn't thank her. I hope she finds her way into the light. I hope she learns what I learned, that the foundation doesn't need permission to become the architect. The building was always hers. She just had to claim it.